Welcome, everybody. Welcome all to Pastor's Corner. Definitely thank you for joining us this evening. I hope everybody is doing well. Hope you all are staying safe and staying at home. So glad to have you. So glad that you could log in with us. We had a wonderful time last week with John Faison, who is the pastor of Watson Grove Baptist Church in Nashville, Tennessee. And before I get started, hey, Sister Jacina, good to see you. And before we get started, I have to give some thanks to two super women, two spectacular women. They're part of our media and IT at Bethel AME Church. The director of our IT is Sister Zulema Caldwell, and she is phenomenal. And so I want to thank her for all that she has done to help get this platform together. And last but definitely not least, I got to thank Sister Jeanette Smith, who is the director of our church growth at Bethel. And one of the departments that is under her purview is media, PR, and amongst a whole host of other things as well. She IT is under that as well. And so she and Zulema make an awesome team, and just so thankful for them and all that they do to help get this out. My vision of pastors kind of getting together in cyberspace and chopping it up for folk to hear. And so for all of you who are on, Reverend Roz, hey, how you doing? Sister Karen, Sister Vonda, Sister Kay, Sister Jacina, hey, God bless you all. Thank you all for being here. All right. Without further ado, I want to introduce our guest pastor for this evening to be a part of Pastor's Corner. Our second installation, it is none other than Reverend William H. Lamar IV. Bill Lamar, who is the esteemed and proud pastor of Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. Hey, Brother Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. Good to see you, man. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm really excited to be with you.
Man, I'm thankful that you agreed to be on. You are a prince of a person, and I just wanted everybody to hear and see you. Oh, and before we get into it, family, I'm going to open up the conversation for questions. We'll talk a little bit first, and then we open up. And any question you want to ask, I won't be able to get to all the questions, but to those that we can get in, squeeze in, we'll answer some questions, have a little bit of engagement tonight. All right. Okay. So, Reverend Lamar, I realize you're from the great state of Florida, right?
You know, now actually, I am from Macon, Georgia. So I lived in Macon. Yeah, I lived in Macon until I was 12.
Okay.
Then our family moved to Florida, but I think St. Paul AME Church is my home church, 989 Morrow Avenue. It's moved.
St. Paul. Oh my goodness. Now is that because there's only one St. Paul in Macon, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the church that blew up when Terrence Gray was there, right?
Exactly right. Terrence got there in 1988, and the church just blew up.
Mm-hmm. And that's the same church. I think Slaughter was there for a little while,
Slaughter
right?
was there.
Okay, yeah. All right.
And Kevin Moore is the pastor now.
Oh, Moore, George Moore's
grandson.
Kevin Moore, grandson, right? Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So then you went to Tallahassee, is that correct?
Yeah, so we moved. We left Macon in 86, went to Jacksonville. Left Jacksonville in 88 and went to Tallahassee. So
okay.
My mother and father are there. My sister and her family are there. So when I go home, I'm going to Tallahassee.
I preached at your home church in Tallahassee.
Yeah,
I think it was last year before last. Yeah, for I think the Lenten revival. Yeah, McAllister brought me down there. Okay, all right. So Florida, all right. But you're in Florida from your adolescence on up. All right, very good. And was Bishop Richardson your pastor?
So let me tell you that story. So my father went before us in Tallahassee because it was his career that moved us. So he got there right before we got settled. He was actually, pastor, listening to the radio. He heard Bishop Richardson preaching on the radio.
Okay.
In 1988. He heard once, maybe twice, and said, that's the church we're joining.
Wow.
So it never happened. We went one time.
I think we lost Brother Lamar.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead. You said you went to church?
He heard, we went one Sunday, all 5 of us joined at the same time. It was a spectacular ministry to be groomed under.
Oh, wow. Now, did you answer your call to preach there?
Yes, sir. In 1994, I was 20 years old. Yes,
okay. All right. Nice. 20. I remember 20. I do.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember 20. Yes, Lord, it was a very good year. Yeah. Okay. Wow, but that's awesome. So then so how did you get to DC? How did you get up this way?
Well, it's interesting. So I was in school at Florida A&M, graduated, went to seminary, came back to Florida, pastored 3 churches over a
Okay.
period of about 9 or 10 years. Really, to be honest with you and those checking this out, I was frustrated.
Okay.
In ministry, and to make a long story short, I had followed someone at my 3rd appointment who is a pastor, but also did some illegal stuff on the side and was laundering money. So I was really frustrated, and I went back to my seminary to work for a few years. But in the end of those 3 years, man, I really felt the burden to come back and to serve. I was like, Duke doesn't need me.
Right.
They can find somebody else to do this. But my heart was still in the AME church. So Bishop Richardson was serving in the 2nd. He invited me to come and to serve at Turner. I got to Turner in 2011. Okay. And then in 2014, Bishop DeVoe was kind enough to appoint me to Metropolitan.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a great. And I know that the people at Metropolitan are so glad that you're there.
It's interesting. I mean, one of the things I wanted to say is, Bethel has just words escape me, a tremendous legacy. And I really believe that at this moment, you are a perfect steward for that legacy. And I mean, Bethel, all of the 2nd district is birthed out of that place, as you know. And, Metropolitan and Bethel are similar in that they are older churches, other churches with great traditions. And I think the thing that I have learned to do is you must both embrace the tradition,
right,
and also with your leaders see how God wants that tradition to speak in the present age.
Okay.
And so that's the work that I'm compelled to do.
Okay, awesome. Like I said, I've admired your work from afar, and I'm so glad to be able to see it up close and see all the things. Because I remember visiting Metropolitan as a little boy. It was the bicentennial, 1987.
Oh wow!
And that's back when DeVoe was still the pastor, and we got a chance to go there and visit. Man, matter of fact, he gave us the tour.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I mean, just a magnanimous guy, and Prince, jewel of a person, and then it was amazing. So, one last thing, just in terms of family. Now, are you married?
I am married.
All right,
newly married. So I got married in November.
Wow.
And my wife is she's a gift, man. I'm like 100%, 100 times, and 100% better than I used to be. So.
Oh man, congratulations! So this is like a second honeymoon.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you all
there's still honey in the moon.
There you go, Doc. This has come as a blessing. Pandemic may be a burden for others, but a blessing to some. Okay, all right.
Yes,
all right then. All right, that's wonderful, man. Well, look, I wanted to talk about your sermon just a little bit. I'm just a couple pieces. I'm gonna talk about some of it at the beginning, and before we get out of here, there's other pieces I want to pick up. But your sermon was "Here They Come." That's what you preached for our Holy Week revival, and for those who didn't get a chance to see it last week for our Holy Week for Maundy Thursday, Reverend Lamar gave us his sermon that he preached for the Samuel Proctor Conference. And the sermon was called "Here They Come." And it was filled with some powerful points. And one of the baselines that I got was that the church is supposed to, by nature, be a disruptor of all things that are demonic, that are enslaving, that are hate-filled practices, hate-filled systems, and hate-filled agendas. Did I get that point right?
Sir, you said it more eloquently than I did. You got it, brother. You got it.
Okay, good. Well, seeing that that's the kind of the richness of your sermon, could you tell me a little bit more about the actual Proctor Conference, just for those of us who might not know what the Proctor Conference is?
Sure. So the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference, it's escaping me how old it is. I'm going to say somewhere between 20, 30 years old, founded by Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright, Frederick Douglass Haynes, Dr. Ivor Carruthers. And it was founded as a conference for the historically African American church concerned about the work of justice, the work of liberation. It was founded to be embracing and ecumenical. So it's a really wonderful conference. And to be quite honest, I had not attended it in multiple years, but Dr. Carruthers and I kept crossing paths. And she really, at the recommendation of one of my classmates and friends, Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart, recommended that I be the closing preacher. And after I got through shivering, I said, yes, I'll take the opportunity, man. But you know, man, if you got Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart and Dr. Ivor Carruthers calling you saying, brother, this is what we want you to do. I thank God and try to get ready for it.
Oh, wow. Well, man, you did a powerful job. Everybody at Bethel, we certainly enjoyed it. All the comments on Facebook, man, it was par excellent. Now, but I got to hit it again because you made a statement, and I just want you just to kind of to tease it out a little bit more. That idea that the church is supposed to be a disruptor of evil systems. Because you were using the text out of Acts, where in Acts chapter 16, I believe, if I'm correct, where Paul and Silas are going about doing their work, and this woman is coming and disturbing them. Now, the woman is part of this corrupt system because men are using her for her gift, right, and making money off of her. And so when Paul cast that spirit out of her, they can no longer make money from her. So can you just say a little bit more? Because I think if I'm correct, you were inferring that maybe we as churches aren't doing that as often as we should, or maybe not doing it at all.
Well, but let me say this. So, you know, great teachers are so important in gifts from God. So I had an excellent teacher of Luke Acts by the name of Ron Allen. He's retired now.
Yes.
Yeah, you know Ron, he went to Drew, didn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so, but I think he did, but I do know Ron Allen. Yes,
I think he went to Drew. So we had to do serious exegesis of Luke and Acts. As you know, Luke writes both the gospel and Acts. So Luke 4, the temptation of Jesus, literally the way that Allen did the grammatical and exegetical work, when Jesus is led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil, he says the proper way to think of this is that the Spirit of God pushes Jesus to pick a fight with the devil. And so that frame carries theologically throughout Luke and Acts. So what happens by the time you get to Acts 16 is no longer is Christ or the body of Christ doing the work of confrontation, but now the Spirit confronts the church. And what's amazing is she continues to try to get their attention.
Yeah,
she is enslaved. She has this spirit, and she has a gift of divination. And as they go about doing what we do as church, brother, going to meetings, preaching, doing shows, whatever, we continue as a church to ignore her. And finally, in order to get her to stop, Paul turns around and casts a demon out. So essentially, the license I took with the text is that sometimes that work that we have ignored will come and find us and force us to act as the Spirit would have us to act. So to be honest, I feel like I don't do enough of it. I feel like we don't do enough of it. And I really think it's appropriate during this COVID-19 stuff. When God gets us beyond this, there are going to be a lot of evil parties trying to take advantage of people, trying to order economics and the social situation to make it even worse for folks. And if the church does not intervene and disrupt, people will be worse off than they are today.
Wow.
So that's kind of my frame.
Okay, so I'm still here. Have you seen this TV series called A Handmaid's Tale?
I have heard of it, but tell me more about it. It's dystopian, is what I
Okay.
heard about.
Yes. So I haven't seen it all yet, but the episodes I've seen have horrified me. Not because it's not good. It's a great production. Great. It's on Hulu, I think. But it's about not the kind of end of days, but there's been some catastrophe of some kind, and whatever has happened has rendered a kind of infertility in the land. So it's hard for women to get pregnant. Not sure if it's the pollution or the cell phones, whatever the case may be. And so kind of war breaks out, and as a result of this war, particularly in what was formerly the United States of America, women who are fertile have become enslaved. So to your point, they've been enslaved and they are used for their gifts to make babies. Where they are given to a commander, and the commander is married. Obviously, the woman that this commander is married to does not have the ability to reproduce herself. So they will have a biblical ceremony where when the wife couldn't have the child, the handmaid would have the child with the wife's husband on the lap of the wife. I mean, it's horrifying, and really, it's around to what you're saying. When we come through disaster, what happens is the haves will hunker down, and then will oppress even more those who don't have. But if you have a gift, then we'll pimp you out, right? So so around that is all of these issues around women and around those who are marginalized. So you have the commander's wife, who was an outspoken feminist prior to this kind of breakdown, right? And now her brand of feminism wasn't necessarily the most popular brand, but it was hers. She's smart, she's intelligent, and you had all these women that were in these different fields, in biochem and news and publishing and right. I mean, and now all of their voices have been silenced because these men thought, oh, they're not able to handle tragedy or handle hard times. So they just need to step back into the background. And so all these women who at one time were leaders of industry are now made to be docile, right? And it was made me nervous because I thought, oh God, this could actually happen. This is not like science fiction. It's not something, this could never happen. This is something that could actually happen. And when you look at what was happening with COVID-19, I mean, that's something where our society shifts and power gets redistributed in very in a way that is not just unequal but nefarious. So just the idea of the woman that's a slave in Acts chapter 16. And I was thinking about this Handmaid's Tale, man. The fact that this is the kind of thing that can happen. So to your point, where's the voice of the church?
Well, I think, and I've been thinking, I think about this all the time. So I'm gonna go a couple of steps back.
Okay.
There is the intricate intertwining of the spiritual and the political and the material. So it is the Spirit of God that leads Jesus out into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And this is one thing I say about that temptation, and the church continues to live through that wilderness. The devil in Luke 4 does not offer Jesus anything that Jesus does not want.
Right.
But it's not a temptation unless you want it. Jesus did want food. Jesus did want power. Jesus did want protection. So the body of Christ today faces similar temptation. We want the material food. We want protection. We want power. The question is, do we want it on our terms, or will we, like Christ, wait, as difficult as that was for him and for us, to get it on God's terms? So I think in the current moment, living in Washington, D.C., you're in Baltimore. These are cities of influence, cities of power. I feel like by and large, the church has failed because we would weather the photo op and going to pray at the mayor's inauguration, going to corporate events, than being the people who stand for what is just and what is right. And it doesn't mean, that you are mean-spirited. It doesn't mean that you're self-righteous.
Right.
Again, the Spirit of God compels us, because this is what I operate from. I operate from this, Pastor. The earth is the Lord's.
Yeah.
So I have had the opportunity to pray with the mayor and all these people. And what I say is, this city belongs to God. The tax dollars belong to God. Industry belongs to God. I go back and I mentioned this in the sermon. Walter Wink talks about naming the powers, engaging the powers, unmasking the powers. Everything was created by God and for God's purposes. And so what we have to do is to be the voice that reminds those who have temporal power of that fact, and be willing. Now, this is the thing. When Paul did what he did, what did the powers do? They came and they arrested him. They came and they got him. I don't think, and I will speak for me and for, that we are willing to risk what it takes to follow the Spirit. Yeah. Because the Spirit does move us to ecstasy and worship. But the Spirit also leads us into the marketplace. Yeah. To do things and to disrupt, and to have to be willing to pay the price. The price that Ida Wells paid, the price that Aaron Tubman paid, the price that King paid, the price. We got to be willing to pay a price, and everybody's price looks different, but we do have to be people willing to sacrifice, brother. And I feel like often the Spirit is leading me to places that I don't want to go because I don't want to make the sacrifice. And I feel like the church, together, we've got to be retooled to do that, because there's so much power to make the world what God desires for it to be. This is interesting. If Jesus teaches us to pray, thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, which is clearly saying that what's here ain't what I want, ain't what God intends. I want what happens in the realm of God to happen on earth, and you all are the ones that I'm using to make that happen.
Wow. Yeah, to that point, what are we willing to lose?
Lord have mercy.
I think that becomes the litmus test. And there's one level. There's like houses and cars and popularity, right? And they all have their place.
Oh yeah.
Sure enough. But then what does it mean to lose family and time and health and shelter? What does that mean to risk at that level? Because when you think about the fact that Harry Belafonte had to pay for Dr. King's funeral.
Oh yeah.
I remember Damon Wayans told a joke on the Arsenio Hall show years ago. And he was doing this kind of spoof of a conversation between Coretta and Martin. And he was doing his imitation of King. I've been to the mountaintop. He had the all voice resignation. And then he turned around and acted like Coretta and said, well, next time you go up there, see if they hiring. Right. And it was a joke and it was funny. I know I'm not a stand-up, God help me. But the way Damon Wayans told it was hilarious. You laugh. But there was a kernel of truth under that.
Oh, yeah.
That he had sacrificed everything.
Oh, yeah. And I think part of and I get what he's saying, part of the challenge, though, was somewhat ahistorical and misleading about his humor, is that Coretta was one of his main intellectual interlocutors. And she was in movement work before he was and pulled him in that direction. But clearly, he did not make money off of the movement. Right. Money that he could have pocketed he put back into the movement.
Yeah, the money from the Nobel Prize.
No, I don't even think he didn't even have an insurance policy. I don't think.
Yeah, no, that's why Harry Belafonte had to pay for the funeral, and I think the money, he got a nice chunk of change from the Nobel, and he gave most of that to almost all of it to the movement.
Yeah. And listen, and not to disparage his lieutenants, but they did not walk in his path. And another issue that I continue to raise is the Black church abandoned King. When King stood against Johnson with the Vietnam War because of his understanding of the triple evils, racism and rampant capitalism and war and how they were intertwined, that he could not fight against racism here and be silent on the war. And see that, and I think that's what we are. I feel like there was a study, you probably came across this in your work years ago, that talked about the white Methodist church. And how one time there was a Methodist church everywhere there was a post office in the United States. Huge, huge, not as big as Southern Baptist, but huge. But the Methodist church started on the margins of society. That's who John Wesley and Charles Wesley were evangelizing. Then over time, Methodist discipline and theology, those people rose up and became middle class folks. Right? And this really what happened is the more they rose, the weaker they became, and the more they abandoned essential mission. So one of the things that Jeremiah Wright talked about years ago when he was pastoring Trinity is the fight against middle classness. Now, that's not fighting against people who have decent housing and education and all that, but the ethos that in order to follow Jesus, you got to become a nice, neat, tidy Negro and not split verbs and pull your pants up and all that. There was something more to following Christ than respectability. As a matter of fact, there was nothing respectable about Jesus. I mean, people with whom he ate, he's a single holy man with a woman rubbing her hair on his feet. Opposite of respectable. He would never. And one of the things I think I said, Jesus was he was a layman. He was not ordained. And you are in the Board of Examiners in the Baltimore Conference. I'm on the Board of Examiners, the AME ordination stuff. Jesus would not qualify for ordination. We would not recommend him for ordination.
Oh God. Oh man, that's and that's an indictment. That's an indictment. Now, what was Gayrod Wilmore had a book? Or then was radicalism and
black religion and black radicalism.
Yes. So the whole thesis was kind of boils down to this: the more radical the Black church was, the more effective it was. When the Black church became less radical, it became less effective. I mean, I think that's the in a nutshell. And I think to your point, it's not about not having nice things, but it's about not allowing the nice things to have us.
Exactly.
And
it's about not erecting artificial barriers to keep people from fellowship. So, many of our churches, you can see the class divide, class stratification.
Wow.
I mean, it's very clear. So one of the things about Metropolitan is you got a 15th Street side, a 16th Street side, and the older saints who are there, say they remember when lighter people sat here, darker people here.
Wow.
So all of that stuff that is both external and internal, and to me, it's a lot, but I do not despair, because what I feel like, Pastor, is that the Spirit is steady pulling us. Steady pulling us. So essentially, it's like the text that we read, Matthew 28, 1-10 for Easter Sunday, where the angel tells Mary and the other Mary, he's already on his way to Galilee. Y'all go meet him. So my whole theology is Jesus is already there waiting for us to come. We've got to catch Jesus. We don't go places where Jesus has not already been. Jesus is saying, come, y'all join me in the work that I'm doing. And I feel like we're not moving. We don't have the momentum to get there. Not all the time, but many times.
Wow, you said a whole mouthful. You said a whole mouthful. Golly, there are some who say, I don't come to church to deal in politics. I don't come to church to talk about the nation's economy. I don't come to church to deal with healthcare. I came so I could learn how to go to heaven. I came so I could get my soul fed. I came so I could learn the word.
Well, first of all, I'm paying attention to your pronouns and the pronouns of those people. That is a consumer Christianity. I came to get my praise on. I came to get my word.
Yeah.
Those are the wrong pronouns. And this is one of the things that I say. Everything is political. Everything is political. So what you don't say shapes a politics as much as what you do not say.
Yeah.
And so I understand what people are saying, but for Jesus, what does he say in Luke 4? Again, we're dealing with that Luke Acts text. Right. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because the Spirit has done what? Has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, release to the captives. All of those things, the recovery of sight to the blind, right? The acceptable year of the Lord. Those things are spiritual, they are economic, they are political. The life of the disciple cannot be compartmentalized. The life of the Spirit drives us into the world. Yeah. And when we go into the world, we meet what we meet under the power of the Spirit so that those things can be changed. And N.T. Wright says, set aright. Those things may be set aright. That's really what it is. So I don't want to come to church and get a campaign rally. And I can remember some of the members kind of had to push back on me because I was really despondent after Trump's election. And I lost my bearings for a while. I had to come back, retool, and now this is spiritual. But the work of the Spirit is, it does not leave us in the church. What people have been complaining to me about not being in the church building. Well, we have forgotten to tell them that the church started in people's homes. Yes. That what this has done is forced us to take a look back at what we once were. Yeah. And so I hear you, and that critique is a salient critique about turning church into a political rally. Yeah. But what is at stake for us is the ministry of Jesus. And what did he do? He did material things. Yes. And he did miraculous things. Yes. That were signs that the reign of God had come. Yes. And I feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah, and to that point, I think for me, it's not supposed to be either or. It's supposed to be both and, right? So to your point, we look at the ministry of Jesus, right? So he feeds a crowd that's hungry with 2 fish, 5 loaves of bread, material need, right? He pays his taxes. I mean, I'm a good citizen, right? He does that, but at the same time, he critiques King Herod, calls him a fox. He said, "You tell that fox," right? He when he comes on Hosanna Palm Sunday, he's riding a donkey, which is the symbol of peace, not the symbol of war. Sure. Right. So it's a critique against the Romans and those and Herod and the Sadducees who were in bed with Rome, right? The Pharisees. So it's a critique against them and against the church. So he's going at all levels, material, economic, spiritual. I mean, we go on and on. So it's not about an either or. Howard Thurman raised some interesting points about the role of the church, particularly the Black church, in the civil rights movement. And he raised this question: is the Black church the home of the civil rights movement because that is the role, that's God's will for the Black church, that we're supposed to be the nexus of the civil rights movement, or is the Black church civil rights movement because that's the only place Black people can go? Wow. And I'm not even trying to wrestle with that question, but I think one of the things that he talked about was how when you looked at civil rights leaders after the assassination, after the King's assassination, so you kind of have this big line of pre-King's death and post-King's death.
And when you look at what happened after King died, you saw a lot of those who marched with him or his lieutenants and all, they went down. Spiritual burnout. You know, had clergy burnout. I mean, and one of the things that Thurman said was one of the things that got lost was the idea of the church as being fuel for the fight.
Wow.
And why not come and get fueled? So it like you said, it's not a political pep rally. It's not a, you know, but if all we do is the politics, all we do is the social justice, but nobody comes to get their spirit nurtured for the fight when you leave out of here, then we've lost what the essence of church is supposed to be. So he wasn't trying to push it either or, but he was saying we lost a part and we need to pull that part back. Where do people get spiritually rejuvenated? Where can I come to get some rest from the fight? Where can I come to get some solace from the struggle before I go back in the fray one more time, right? Why? Because I know I'm gonna come here and strategize. I'm gonna come here and work. I'm gonna come here and get things together. But where do I come where I might have my spirit lifted once more? So I think you're right that we have to make sure that we are attending to all that. Now I want to open it up. Hey everybody, I thank you guys again for being online. I want to open up for questions. Now you don't have to ask us questions about what we're talking about. You can ask anything you want to ask, and you can ask Dr. Bill. You can ask me, however you want to do it. We'll open it up now, and as the questions come, I'll see what we can do, and we'll put them on.
But you know, your raising Thurman was so helpful because in Jesus and the Disinherited, a book that King kept with him that I love, his question is, you know, what does Jesus have to do with people whose backs are against the wall? So then what he does is he tries to rescue the Jesus who was historically from the Jesus we've been given. And I really do think, to your point, if we can offer people that Jesus who picked fights with the devil, who fed people, who paid the price of hearing the voice of God and following it, that nurtures the spirit for the work that goes ahead. Right. And you're right. It's a whole. I mean, it's harmony. It's not dissonance. Yeah. And let me say, I felt you when you said you were so disappointed in 2016. Oh gosh, I don't even know what this is going to be moving forward. So it looks as though the Democrats are getting ready to settle on one, and it looks like it's going to be a showdown between Trump and Biden. Right. I know you're heavy into politics. What does that look like for you? Well, I think there's a book called The Price of the Ticket. And it's by a political scientist. I can't remember his name, but essentially his argument is that, and I'm going to speak particularly of the politics of Black people. And when I speak of the politics of Black people, I'm concerned, Pastor, with the masses of Black people. So people like you and me are working at home, still getting paychecks. I'm talking about the people in Baltimore and in Washington who are not. My politics are driven by the masses. And the politics of Jesus are the politics of the masses, or Rome would not have executed him. Right? So what I say is what this political scientist, I think his name is Frederick Jackson Jordan, what he says is Black people made a mistake when we married our politics to the politics of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is about maintaining power. It is more about that than Black politics. So what I know is, I know that Joe Biden is a much better candidate than Trump will ever be. Right. I know that the judges he will choose and the policies that he will seek to enact are much better, but they still are not enough. Right. So what I understand is I work with him, but I'm very clear about the limits of working with the Democratic Party. What we need to understand about the Democratic Party is the current prison industrial complex was fueled by the Democratic Party. You know, the current situation in Wall Street, where they're able to make all these gobs of money because you got rid of Glass-Steagall, you got rid of things that separated commercial banking and the financialization of the economy. Democrats were in on that. And so what I'm saying is their hands are not clean.
Yes.
They are the better option for the masses.
Right.
They still are not motivated by the politics of the masses. They still have a corporate politics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And corporate politics ultimately crushes the masses. And I feel like what we're called to do, like Jesus, on Calvary, we must put our bodies between that violence and the masses. We got to put our mouths, our theology, our spiritual energy there. So what I want to be clear about is you've got to vote for Mr. Biden. Yeah. Yeah. Trump has to leave 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. Yeah. But when Mr. Biden gets to the White House, our job is not to skin and grin. Yes. And to be scratching our heads and dancing. Our job is to say, this is what we demand. Because let's be clear, Black women, if he gets elected, it will be because of Black women. Yes. The power and what they're calling today so beautifully, Black girl magic. The power of Black woman, Black girl magic is what saved his behind in South Carolina. There you go. And so what we have to do, and I'll tell you the story and I'll stop. Former governor of Maryland, one of my friends worked very closely with him. And he said to my friend, I never give people more than they ask for. So they said, he said, the governor, when Black people come to me, they ask me to give their children jobs. When white people come to me, they ask for millions of dollars for bridges, for loans, for grants. And so you all don't ask for enough. Wow. The only reason Joe Biden would sit in the Oval Office is because Black women and Black people, by and large, put him there. And we need to demand living wages. We need to demand that schools not be funded based on zip codes, because you and I know that either you live in a neighborhood rich enough where you can pay tuition, where the schools are good, or you can pay tuition to send your kid to private schools like people do in our area. And I'm not knocking that, but every child should have an excellent education. Every person should have health care. Yes. So what we have to do is demand that. They're not going to do this. A lot of people got mad at Jeremiah Wright, but I think he was correct. When Obama got elected and he said he'll be a politician and we have to be prophets. Yeah. We must never forget that that's our mantle. Yeah. Yeah. You're so right. I'm just sitting here thinking, because let's take everything that the current president has done prior to his election. We're not going to include all of the antics of Wall Street. Anything. Let's just solely keep it as a critique of what he's done in these 3.5 years. I thought it was 30 years. Oh Lord, it's felt like forever. Good God. Okay, I'll raise one. He shut down the pandemic office. Wow. Shut it down. Said we don't need that. He shut it down. Got rid of it. Not put a better option in place. Not, shut it down. And what I have read, Doc, is that when the transition was happening, you probably read this, that Obama's team ran a scenario by him about this coming. Yep. And they gave him a book, I think, of like 80 pages or 70 pages about what plans were in place to try to deal with it. Well, and think about it too, because before he left office, that was one of the things that he said. And it's interesting how this is coming out now, because I think in 2015, Bill Gates said it. And I think in 2016, before Obama left office, he said about the making sure that our infrastructure was in such a way that should a pandemic rise, that we'd be able to meet that challenge. Right. And because think about it, because just was it 2014, they had the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. And then, some years before that, you had swine flu, SARS, you had all these other things. But the fact that these things, they saw these things ramping up. And Bill Gates says, or the TED Talk in 2015, we're not prepared. Obama says, this is something that needs to have some work, because if this happens to us, we need to be ready. And so to your point, he leaves this for his successor and he gets rid of it.
gets. I mean, you shouldn't fire somebody because of one mistake, but this one, that one. Now he made a boatload more mistakes, but that one, good God Almighty.
And see, and this also goes to what Jesus was trying to show in his ministry, that was spirit driven, but played itself out materially, socially, politically. If the poorest among us had access to shelter, healthcare, this would be a much smaller pandemic. It would have much less energy and fuel.
Yeah.
But because you've got immigrant families who are afraid to go and they're sick because they don't want ICE to get them. You got other folk who are afraid to go because they don't want to have to pay for it.
Yep.
Our neighbors to the north, Canada. Now, Canada, just like United States, they push First Nations people off. They got a bad history, but they've done a much better job of trying to care for their citizenry. Canadians are getting $2,000 direct deposited into their accounts every month, those who meet a certain income threshold. Plus, Canada has universal health care. And if you look at the percentage, not the numbers, because it's a much less populated nation, but look at the percentage, Canada is doing much better. But not only Canada, South Korea, Taiwan, these other nations that do not have the population or the economic largesse, but they have a burden to care for their people. And to be honest, the only reason that America does not care for all of us, and I'll just say the word, Pastor, you can fire me, but it is niggerization. It is a certain group of people or groups of people are not worthy. So to keep them from getting it, we'll say no. And in saying no to them, all of our livelihood and health is at risk, because you don't give them health care, but you make $5 million or you got $50 million and you walk past them on the street in Washington and they sneeze and you die. Because you were not willing to share what never was yours in the first place. It's all God's.
Yep. So the CDC reported that last year, so the flu season last year, so 2018, 2019, because it goes across the calendar year. So last flu year, 32,000 people died of the flu in the United States. 32,000 people died of the flu in the year of the flu, the last year of flu. I'm sorry, 34,000 people died. Now, in the United States, to maybe a couple days ago, 32,000 people died from COVID-19. So that's just in these couple months. So in a couple months, 32,000 people have died. Last year of the flu, 34,000 people died. So get that. So watch those numbers, right? You catch those numbers. So the fact that you got rid of a pandemic office, it's possible that the 32,000 didn't have to be 32,000.
No.
Right? It could have been far less than that. But to your point, many of the moves that have been made in terms of healthcare, access to resources, in terms of finances, housing, small businesses, you name it, have been pushed toward a certain class, a certain gender, a certain skin color, a certain ethnicity. These things, and it has been brazen.
Oh yeah.
Brazen. It's been brazen. I mean, and I think, people can knock me down for the analogy, but when people look at the rise of Hitler, there are so many parallels.
Oh yeah.
That we can't sneeze at it. We can't sneeze at it. Well, let me push it along. Now, again, guys, if you all have any questions of any kind, just go ahead and ask, and we'll do our best. I got a couple more topics, and we're gonna get out of here. One is gonna be a little more churchy, the other is gonna be a little more fun. The churchy one. So now you're pastoring in a pandemic. You've never done it before. How is that working for you right now?
You know what? It's been really like climbing a mountain. And I'm going to be honest with you. We, in some sense, are doing better outside the building than we were in.
Wow. Okay.
The trajectory of giving, it has increased. And when we look at trajectory, it's more than what we budgeted for last Sunday. That's one indication, but not the only one. We are engaging more people. So when we run the metrics from Sunday, from Wednesday, from the other ministry activities that we're having, we have more clearly focused on pastoral care, on reaching out to our folks. So to be honest, I would not wish this, and I don't think that God willed it. But what it has done is stripped away anything that was non-essential to our functioning. And in focusing clearly on one or two or three things, it seems like we're growing stronger in the midst of the challenge. Now, this is what you remember this. They talked about how the more the church was persecuted, the more it grew.
Yes.
And so what you learn in school is this little phrase that the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church.
Yeah.
So in the midst of this season of challenge, there are wonderful things. Now, what I do know is for many of my colleagues that had not put into place any technological infrastructure, it's much worse for them. So you and I are at places that have some resources, human and financial, as opposed to some of the places that I have served in the past, that you know of in the past and have served. So it's interesting, again, because we were already fairly well positioned. It's an instance where the rich are getting richer. Like I talked to some pastors today who are really knocked off because they don't have the infrastructure.
Right.
And so it's really sad that that appears in some way to be the way of the world. And when you're good, you get better.
Yeah.
And I think that people like you and me are going to have to say, look, we've got to use our personal and church largesse to help these sisters and brothers who have not fared as well. So we've been clearer. We have the essentials of pastoral care, of preaching, of teaching, of reaching out. And also we've not lost community service. So we've been giving to people in the community who are struggling. And I'm telling you, what I hope to do is when I get back to the building and we get back, that we won't reset, brother.
Okay. Yeah.
That we will keep the fat trimmed,
right,
and try to keep moving. That's my hope.
I hope so too, man. Well, look, I want to take this question because the Sister Vonda asked. I'll kind of summarize it. Where does the AME Church stand when it comes to in the incarcerated population? Because she says there's an AME Church in the Western Correctional Institute in Cumberland called Bridge to Eternity AME. And they're young men who want to be ordained, who are completing pastoral counseling. So are we going into the prisons as we should? I don't know. How do you respond to that?
Well, my first response is I always remind people that our Savior has a record, right? that Jesus had a record, Paul had a record, God. So the incarcerated community is at the heart of our faith. With criminal records, whether they did something criminal or not, and that would be the case for this incarcerated population. We do stuff in the prisons, and I know that Bethel does as well. I think that these brothers and sisters in the facility, if they are members of the AME Church and seeking ordination, that privilege cannot be denied them if they meet the requirements.
Right.
But what I would ask Sister Vonda to do is just to connect with persons who will be able to guide those brothers and sisters to meet the requirements. I think, unfortunately, at a system level, the AME Church is definitely against the prison industrial complex. But I think that in practice, in many local churches, we don't have the ministry infrastructure or even the sense of hospitality, such that those brothers and sisters will feel welcome in the house. So I think that it happens ecclesiologically. Those brothers and sisters, if they're part of an AME church and they do the work, they can get ordained.
Right.
But I think politically we got to keep fighting against that prison industrial complex, and we also have to make sure that there's real hospitality in the churches. I commend to folks the work of Harold Trulier and others who are trying to get the church really in a place to welcome home those who are coming home.
All right, wonderful.
And to care for those who are not at home.
Man, thank you, man. That took the words out of my mouth. You spoke it, sir. So I want to end with this. So in your sermon, here they come. You start to go, here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come, yo. I was like, whoa. I said, wait a minute. I remember those days. You know, you play some hip hop today. Well, they call it hip hop. I don't know what it is. Mumble rap. I'm like, what are they saying? What is that? My son, it's called mumble rap. So you gonna pay for somebody mumbling? So yeah, there it is right there. Thank you, Sister Smith. Yes, here we go.
I hate watching myself, man. It's painful. It's painful.
Yeah, you started to go, here they come, yo, and then you went to engine number 9. Here they come, yo. Here they come. Oh no, there you go. Yeah, here they come, yo. Here they come, yeah. Engine number 9.
On the New York Transit line. If my train falls off the track.
I know that one. I know that's Black Sheep. I know that. Yeah. So tell me, who are your favorite hip hop artists?
Brother, man, that's tough. I would say the group that really politicized me is Public Enemy.
Okay.
So I can remember the Nation of Millions album. The first hip hop album I ever had was LL Cool J's Radio.
Okay.
85, 86.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can't live without my radio. Yeah.
Look, when I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall, and I need love. So it's the Native Tongues, De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Jungle Brothers, Queen Latifah, Moni Love, Black Sheep, Outkast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Outkast. Look, moving up in the world like elevators. Me and my crew, we from 82. Come on, man. And the Cadillac goes. You got Goody Mob.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes.
You got to give it up for. It's so hard living this life, a constant struggle each and every day. Look, man, and one of the things I say, Doc, I'm glad you asked that question, because I firmly believe that God is in all creativity.
Yeah.
When we screw it up, we screw it up. Yeah. But man, there's so much gospel in that stuff, so much good news in that stuff.
Yeah. I believe you're right. Because man, if you just sit down and listen to KRS-One,
oh my God,
he's just dropping knowledge. Like, wow.
Oh man, look, and his stuff, man, his whole albums I have memorized, because no one ever told Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons for real, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It was, man, that stuff. It was, I have no words, but they helped to form and shape both of us, apparently.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I grew up on LL Cool J, Black Sheep. That was my high school, college was Black Sheep, Tribe Called Quest, KRS-One, Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Look, I ain't no joke. I used to let the mic smoke. Not say when I'm done to make sure it's broke. Man, classic.
Yes, sir. Well, man, I could talk hip hop all day with you, man, but we got to get out of here. Man, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us, man. Oh, gosh.
Look, my best to Reverend Sherry, to your children, to your father,
yes,
to the Bethel family. You all have done and are doing great work. God bless you.
Oh, man, thank you so much. And to you and Metropolitan family, to your brand new bride, God bless all of you. And man, hey, look, stay safe as you stay at home. And we're praying that when all this stuff kind of relaxes and ease back, man, we got to get together. All right.
Looking forward to it, brother.
Okay, take care. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate you. Check us out. We're going to replay it on Facebook and on YouTube, man. God bless you. We'll see you on Sunday at 9:45 a.m. Take care. Bye-bye.